Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo. The Bison were represented in Super Bowl 60 twice over. Highlights from championship weekend, plus a big one for Horace and Tom Hoagie. Hot Mic starts now.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. I was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome to Hot Mic on this 26th day of January 2026. You know, I've been rattling my head here the last 48 hours after what went down this weekend about the appropriate tone to have for the show this morning. And you know, too often I've had to come on the show, and I understand what we do here and why people watch and why people listen, and it's important. And when you have something that happens this weekend that happened in Minneapolis again, it just, sometimes I'm lost for words. I really am. I'm struggling with it all weekend, frankly. And I want to walk the line here of, I know why people tune in and want to escape what's going on and appreciate that, and we'll do that. As many know, I'm a dad of a 6.5-year-old, and it's really hard to try and, I don't even know how to explain this, heck, to if he was 16, I don't know how to explain it. I'm 46. Of what is happening here. And this is beyond, you know, I'm not going to sit here and be naive and just, hey, we're going to dabble in sports and just ignore what happened. I don't think that's responsible. I also want to make sure I don't get myself in, I don't know, trouble's not the right word, because I think our bosses here understand we have a platform to speak on what's happening. But the videos out there are just, it's haunting. It just is. And it's hard to not be affected unless you're just completely detached. And if that's the case, then okay. But that's not, at least for me. And I've really been struggling with this to describe how to do our show today, because there's lots of stuff to talk about, exciting stuff, fun stuff. And it's hard to not get bogged down with that. And I say it with all respect, the man's dead. And we went through this, for those that are new to our show or came to us after COVID. I mean, we had a stretch here, obviously, when we were doing this show, there were no sports to discuss. So we did it every day, where it seemed like the news was, the next day was worse than the last. And to try and I don't know, positive spin isn't even the right word. There's a lot I'd like to go back and do over about how we were handling those shows, frankly. Now, as I look back on it, we did the best we could. But just, I understand why you tune in. I appreciate it. There's hard for me to ignore that. And it just, as a dad, and my son asking what's going on and how to answer that, somebody smarter than me has to help with that. I don't have an answer for it. And Courtney and I have done, I think, not necessarily sheltering him, but understanding, sometimes now the news has to be muted on our television. And that reality, I'm sure, for thousands and millions of parents out there. Sometimes I need to do it myself just because it's almost too much. It really is right now. So, for those out there that are looking for a break, we'll give it to you. But know full well, at least for me, it's what are we doing, people? That's all I have to ask. What are we doing out there? Because it feels like each day is scarier than the next. It really is. There's no other way to transition. I've been wrestling this since Saturday at 3 o'clock when we wrapped up our Bison basketball broadcast. I'm like, how am we going to do this show without being totally oblivious? And I don't want to come off as that either. That's not what I am. It's not what I'm about. And just difficult. So with that, hope everybody navigated the weekend the best we could. I can't even say have a good weekend. Navigated the weekend the best you could with what was happening out there. It's great to be back, and thanks to Sam for filling in for me on Friday. We had some stuff going on as well, added to the stress of the weekend, but it's great to be back here in the big chair, ready to go for a busy week. And we'll unpack it in due time here. I mentioned off the top, the Super Bowl is set for 2 weeks from yesterday. AFC champion is the Patriots. NFC champion is Seattle. Rematch of Super Bowl 49? Question mark. One of the all-time great ones, won by the Patriots on a late interception by one Malcolm Butler. We get it now. Redux here in February of 2026, which we'll show all that coming up in just a little bit. We'll also get to some big basketball news over the weekend. Same old, same old. If you're waking up here on Monday the 26th and seeing there's a big 0 next to the Bison men's and women's basketball standings, nothing changed there. They kept on winning. We'll get to that coming up in due time as well along the show this morning. I mentioned some golf as well. When it's negative 30 outside, nothing better than turning the television on and seeing the sun in California and seeing a guy from Fargo lighting up the leaderboard. Good to see Tom Hoagie back and playing well, which we'll show that as well later on in the show. But we'll start with what went down last night, the NFC Championship game, round 3. We were visited with Jalen Sundell. If you saw my conversation with the former Bison All-American left tackle, now the starting center for the Seattle Seahawks, I asked him about this whole playoff run being very similar to what he endured during his time in Fargo, where multiple games against the same team. Sundell was part of that, obviously, facing the Jackrabbits multiple times in the postseason. Now he's doing it in the NFL, where the Seahawks had to get by the 49ers, playing them for a third time. And if they were going to go to the Super Bowl, they had to play the Rams for a third time and try and beat them for a second time. That was the backdrop for the game last night in Seattle. And on top of that, for Viking fans to have to also see that Sam Darnold was their quarterback to try and get past Matthew Stafford to the Super Bowl. It's a 13-10 Rams lead. We pick it up late in the first half. Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's been the best wide receiver in football this year, had another virtuoso performance last night. Comes down with a big catch there, and then right before the half, Darnold hits him in the end zone for a touchdown and gives Seattle a 17-13 halftime lead. Darnold was awesome in this game. Just you're going to have to chew on that for a bit. All right, same score. We start the third quarter. Seahawks are punting, and Rams special teams continues to be poor. They fumble here inside the 20-yard line. Darnold doesn't need much time. Goes to the end zone for the touchdown of all people to Jake Bobo? Question mark. 17 yards. It's 24-13 Seahawks. Back come the Rams, though. Stafford hits Devontae Adams. Really? Why can't the Jets find players like Devontae Adams? Goes to the end zone. Touchdown. Man, as a Jet fan, it was a tough game watching last night. 24-20, new score. Seahawks come back down the field. There's our guy, Cooper Kupp. Of course, a Super Bowl MVP with the Rams. Now playing for the Seahawks. I don't know if people just forgot that Kupp still plays. Not anymore. Into the end zone. Touchdown. It's 31-20 Seahawks late in the third. Controversy reigns here late in the third quarter. On a 3rd and 12 play, Seahawks are going to get off the field. Except Tariq Woolen decides to talk smack to the Rams bench. The official decides to throw his penalty flag about 20 feet in the air. That's an unsportsmanlike taunting. Rams stay on the field. The very next play. This is why Stafford is such a killer. Goes to the end zone. Hits Puka Nacua for the score. Right after the unsportsmanlike 34-yard score. Makes it 31-27. Game on. Frustration running high on the Seahawk bench. Fourth quarter now. Same score. Stafford keeps it on 4th and 1. They get the first down, shaking off 2 tacklers to keep the Rams on the field. Now, Sean McVay here with a interesting decision, decides to go for it on 4th down, not kick the field goal. They don't get it. Seahawks break it up. Seattle drains some clock. Rams get the ball back. They have no timeouts. They're at their own 25-yard line. Here, Stafford zings one complete. Nacua, though, can't get out of bounds. The clock will wind, and the game is over. You see, watch right here. Nacua is down in bounds there. And the Seattle Seahawks, for the first time in 11 years, are going to the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold as the starting quarterback. 31-27, the final score last night. Darnold goes for 346 and 3, 25 of 36 and 346 yards. Jackson Smith-Njigba was great for 153 yards and a score. Stafford was great too, 374 and 3. But it's the Seahawks will go on to Super Bowl 60 and representing North Dakota State twice over. Jalen Sundell will be in the Super Bowl, as will Gray Zabel, who was caught up with after the game.
Let's go. Hey, man, not bad for a rookie year. It's Super Bowl time, man. How about that?
I don't even want to think about that. I want to celebrate this with the guys. There's so many guys on this team that's so deserving to win this game, have the opportunity to go play for the chance to win the last game of the season. That's the coolest thing ever. So,
how special is this whole community, man, embracing you from day one?
Oh, it's been unbelievable. The state of Washington, the 12s, it's unbelievable. I mean, rookie coming in, you don't know what to expect. I mean, there's ups, downs, bumps and bruises, but man, they showed out tonight. They came out in full sport.
One more to go.
One more.
Yeah, there was some excitement there in the background. How about let's just call it the last 13 months for that guy, right? Goes and wins an FCS championship at North Dakota State. Goes to the Senior Bowl. Is the best player the entire week there. Literally took on anybody. Remember, we showed the video here. Literally every day he's taken on all comers and beaten them. Right? Then sees his draft stock continue to go up, goes to the Combine, has a great week there. By the time we get to April, he's not only in the first round, he's a mid-first round pick that the Vikings coveted, the Seahawks wanted him, goes to Seattle, wins over that town immediately. I mean, he becomes an instant fan favorite, right? Just the people love him there. He's thrown out the first pitch in a Mariners game. Ends up becoming the starter at left guard, plays every game, doesn't miss a snap, and now he hasn't had a break. He's been going nonstop basically since August or late July of 2024. Think about that. He went through the entire Bison season, right? That goes into the draft process. That goes through end of April, right? Then goes to Seattle. We saw him briefly in June. He was back for Cody Mauk's camp because we visited with Gray. That was the end of June. So he had a couple weeks off, right? Came back for Cody's wedding. Gets back to Seattle for training camp. Goes to the season now, and here we are. It's going to be February. The man's been going nonstop here for, let's do some rough math here. That's always fun. About 20 months now? And now his team is playing in the Super Bowl. We're going to have a chance to visit with Gray this week. Looking forward to that. So stay tuned for that conversation here on the show. But North Dakota State will have a representative in the Super Bowl for the 4th time in the last 6 years. Think about that. Joe Haig, of course, started for Tampa Bay in Super Bowl 55. Nearly caught a touchdown. Brady threw the ball to Haig. I'm never going to let him forget it. He won't forget it either. Had a chance to catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. Won the Super Bowl that year. Spencer Wagee went as a practice squad player with the 49ers a couple years ago. Obviously, Carson Wentz was there last year as the backup quarterback for the Chiefs, and now Sundell and Zabel starting for the Seahawks next to one another. I have to get that photo out again. I'll dig that up this week of that starting offensive lineup. It's 2022, which featured Sundell, Zabel, Cam Miller, Hunter Lipke, Mason Miller. I mean, the list goes on. Cody Mauk. Just crazy. Congratulations. So the Seahawks are there, and they're going to get the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. The Patriots, those tough luck Patriots, right, who stunk it up for a couple of years, went 4-13 in back-to-back seasons, right? And now here they are. They got their quarterback. Thanks again to the New York Football Jets. They helped them out, because if the Jets had lost to New England in that final game of 2023, the Patriots wouldn't have got the number 3 pick. I'll lament on that in a minute. Jarrett Stidham, former Patriot great, was the starting quarterback for Denver because Bo Nix, of course, broke his ankle. Looked great to start, then not so good. Late second quarter, under pressure here. I don't know what they ruled here. It was not right. It should have been a fumble and a touchdown. Somehow they ruled that it's a I don't know. Officiating in the NFL is always on a game-to-game basis. As it is, the Patriots recover it, but it's not a touchdown. So New England takes advantage. That guy I'm talking about, Drake May, runs it in for the score. Game is tied at 7. Then it decided to snow. Apparently, Sean Payton never checked the weather forecast. That something was coming. Patriots got the ball to start the second half and had a North Dakota State-esque drive. May scampers here for 25 yards. They had the ball for 9.5 minutes. They're on a 4th and 1. Controversy here because Sean Payton challenged if it was a first down. It was. The Patriots get a field goal. It kept getting worse as the game went on. Will Lutz will attempt a 46-yarder here that got blocked at the line of scrimmage, and it's no good. Watch this right there. Just a monster play in this game that could have tied it up and keeps it 10-7. Offenses couldn't move the ball. With 2 minutes to go, Broncos with a chance, but Stidham is picked off. Again, throwing the ball in these conditions was not going to work. New England gets it now. All they need is a first down to ice the game. How about this call from Josh McDaniels? They run May to the outside, and he picks it up. And the Patriots, those long-suffering New England fans, are going back to the Super Bowl with another stud quarterback. Those of us that are fans in the AFC East, come on! Patriots win it 10-7. Their 12th trip to the Super Bowl, folks. Think about that. They went to the Super Bowl with Tony Eason. Steve Grogan is their quarterback when they lost 40 years ago to the Bears in Super Bowl 20. Then they went again with Drew Bledsoe when they lost to Brett Favre and the Packers in Super Bowl 36? Then Brady took them a handful of times. You may have heard about that. And now they've got Drake May. All I'm going to tell you right now, the 2023 regular season finale, the Jets are playing New England in Foxborough. The Jets had lost, I think, 5 in a row to New England. Had New York lost the game, the Jets would have picked at 3. And we could have got Drake May. Instead, they won the game, celebrated like they won the Super Bowl because they hadn't beat the Patriots in about 4 years. And New England ends up getting the 3rd pick. And, of course, the rest is history. Yes, it all comes back to my football team because they've ruined it for everybody. Think about it. They couldn't get Drake May. They had Sam Darnold and screwed it up for everybody. Just a complete mess up of a deal. Only the Jets could do that. So you got it, New England and Seattle, Super Bowl 60 coming up in a couple weeks' time in Santa Clara, in San Francisco. More on that later on in the show. Before we wrap up our opening segment, Timberwolves were playing yesterday as well. Obviously, the Wolves decided to postpone, rightfully so, the game with Golden State on Saturday after the murder of Alex Preddy that happened Saturday morning. They were scheduled to play Golden State anyway in basically a back-to-back situation with a day off. Saturday they would play, Sunday off, and then Monday play again. So they moved the game, and they had a moment of silence before the game. Wolves, we mentioned it coming in, had lost 4 in a row. Ant was back. It's a big shot there, but remember, the Wolves beat the Warriors last year. Curry played for all of about 8 minutes in that series before he got hurt with his hamstring, and he ain't hurt now. Jimmy Butler may not be playing, but Steph is. Hits that. I mean, what are you going to do? Goes up by 11. Golden State comes in. He had 26. He's now 19th all-time in scoring. He passed John Havlicek last night for 19th all-time. They win it. They cruised. I mean, they blew the Wolves out. They outscored Minnesota 38-17 in the third, winning at 111-85, winning by 26 last night. The Wolves have lost 5 in a row now to drop to 27-19 on the year. You can understand that their heads weren't in it, obviously, but got to find it here. They got another game with Golden State right back tonight, 8:30 tip time at Target Center for what's going on. The Wolves now tied for 6th in the Western Conference standings. We got a packed show coming up for you here today on this Monday morning. Our guest lineup is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We'll salute our best of the weekend coming up here in just a few minutes. Got a good stuff there. That's coming up here in just a few. Sam Herder will join us at 9:35, unpack what's happening in FCS football. A couple of changes in D1 as well. We'll get to that. Ever tinkering. I mentioned once the season is done is actually the busy time because that's when we've got rule changes, we've got proposal for rules, all that. We'll get to Sam coming up at 9:35. Jeff Kolpack will join us at 10 o'clock to start hour number 2. Chat some Bison basketball. North Dakota State's basketball teams keep on winning. There's still a big goose egg in the loss column for both the men and the women. We'll discuss that with Jeff coming up at 10 o'clock. 10:35, we'll get into some Bison football news as well. If you're thinking it's early for recruiting, I'm going to tell you actually it's late for the class of 2027. We'll discuss that coming up at 10:35. It's Senior Bowl week as well. We'll preview that coming up before we wrap up the show. So, a lot to get to here on a Monday. Glad you're joining us. Hope we can ease the mind for at least a little bit here on a Monday morning. Hot mic off and rolling. Best of the weekend coming up. We'll salute that when we come back. All right, we do it each and every Monday. We salute our best of the weekend. A lot of good candidates to pick from here. Let's start. If you missed it, Saturday afternoon, the Bison men had to move up their game because of the huge winter storm that has hit the southern part of the country, ranging from basically Texas to Georgia. Bison were caught in that. They were supposed to play it Saturday night in Tulsa. Got moved up to the afternoon. It didn't seem to bother the Bison men, particularly one Tay Smith, who has found his role and is excelling in it. Saturday was a perfect example. He was unstoppable, on fire against ORU to the tune of 8 made threes. You're going to see 6 of them here in the game against Oral Roberts. There was a stretch here, and he was starting for the injured Damari Wheeler-Thomas. Damari did not play in the game after injuring his ankle late in the win Thursday night against Denver with a sprained ankle. Well, Smith came in, and he had a game like this earlier this year. He made 5 against Southern Illinois, where he just was in his bag here, stopping, popping, watching defenders go flying by him. He makes 8 threes. He made 7 of them in the first half. This was the final one. The Bison won by nearly 30 on the road at Oral Roberts. Let me say that again, because Oral Roberts is a team that traditionally been pretty darn good. They've certainly struggled here over the last 3 years. The Bison won by 30 in Tulsa. And Smith was a huge reason why. 8 made threes in the Bison victory over ORU to keep them at 8-0 in Summit League play. That was pretty good. Also pretty good, shout out to the Horace Hawks football program. They have a state championship in their back pocket. They're now playing at the highest level of North Dakota football. Now they're starting to get recognized for producing some pretty good talent. This weekend, big recruiting weekend on the north side. 2 of their studs earned Division I offers. One is this guy, Brett Livingston, their standout wide receiver who's all of 6'5". The other is this guy, is Aiden Green, who was part of that tremendous Horace team that won the Dakota Bowl in 2024. Each of them picked up offers from NDSU. Livingston, I've talked a little bit with coaches in both the high school and the collegiate level. His size alone is reason to be intrigued. Green, whose dad was a heck of a player at MSU Moorhead, by the way. I know our Cullen Holt did a feature on him during the fall. Both these guys have got some dynamite talent. The 2027 class, I'm telling you now, folks, you've heard from, I'd say, 5 or 6 of them on our program over the last year plus, whether it be the guys in Minnesota over in Moorhead, the guys in Kindred, whether it be Luke Starcevic, Brooks Bacco, Ben Heenek out in Stanley. You got these guys now to add to the... I'm telling you right now, this is the best local high school football recruiting class that I've seen in 20 years. It might be ever. The amount of guys that are getting looked from the Division I level, not just FCS, we're talking FBS looks, we're talking Power 4 looks. It's the best you've ever seen. Congratulations to those 2 guys, just getting kick-started there with their Division I run. Also featured on Best of the Weekend, we've featured him many a time. He is not in a great run here over the last, I'd say, 6-7 months. So it is great to see Tom Hoge contending for a PGA title. It was this weekend playing at the American Express in La Quinta, California, where he has played well in the past. And this weekend, he was surging up the leaderboard again. This is an event back in 2022. He nearly won. A couple weeks later, he ended up winning at Pebble Beach. Saturday, I'm sitting at the shack, and I got a couple people asking me, hey, well, you see what Hoagie's doing? I'm like, I sure do. He started his tournament with 64, followed up with 68. Then Saturday, shot 65 to get into one of the final groups. Yesterday, had a pretty good day as well. Not his best, not like what he did on Saturday. Saw that made putt he had. This one was for birdie at 16. Had a disastrous double bogey at the 13th, but birdies at 15 and 16. Had this tee shot at the really tough 17th hole, where the winner yesterday put it in the water. That's a great tee shot. I mean, par 3s, he's sensational on. He would end up missing this putt. Hoagie shot 70 in the final round, ends up tying for 8th at the American Express. Ends up making $250,000 for the weekend. Had a costly bogey at the 18th, or he would have made almost $500,000. But he gets a top 10. There's no sneezing at that for what he did. He ended up finishing a solid 6 shots behind the winner. No surprise, Scotty Scheffler is back in the win column. His first event of 2026, and what does he do? He goes out and does this. I mean, for the rest of us that watch it, I love watching the PGA, and it's going to be fun that Brooks Koepka's coming back. He's not going to play live. He'll be back on the PGA Tour to actually maybe give this guy some competition, because right now, he even put one in the water at the 17th hole and still was up by as many shots. He could do that. He made a double bogey and still was up by 6. He does this at the 18th. Just another ho-hum win for the best golfer in the world, who takes home $1,600,500 FedEx Cup points by winning. For our guy Hoagie, by the way, zoomed up 20 spots in the FedEx Cup, got to 19th now. Remember, the top 30 go to the Tour Championship when the year is done. We'll see him back playing again here this coming week. It's the Farmers Union Insurance Open. That's at Torrey Pines, where Hoagie's played well. He'll be on the course here the next 3 weeks. It's this week, this past week, this coming week at Torrey Pines, then Pebble, then I think it's the Waste Management, so he's going to be playing over the next little bit. But there you have it. We do our best of the weekend each and every Monday at 9:20. We'll break. We come back. Our guy Sam Herder will join us to unpack everything going on in the world of FCS football. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns on a Monday morning. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Monday morning show off and rolling here on an Overreaction Monday. I don't know if there's any shortage of overreaction for the fan bases in New England and Seattle for their teams advancing on to Super Bowl 60, which will have a distinct FCS flavor in it as we welcome in our guy Sam Herder, who chats everything FCS football, does it every Monday. Don't care if the season's going or not, because more often than not, there's more news happening off-season than there is when the games are played. There'll be 2 starting North Dakota State offensive linemen in the Super Bowl, which the Bison may not have a lot to brag about, considering they didn't win the football championship this year. They'll brag up to the hills, and rightfully so, come Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, with Sundell and Zabel right next to each other on the offensive line for a Seattle team that just looks like a wagon right now, and they're running the ball super well, and that offense is just absolutely humming, and as a Vikings fan, it's kind of tough to see the quarterback play over there. But yeah, there's a handful of FCS guys. NDSU has a couple. I think the Big Sky as a whole has, I want to say 8 guys total on active rosters. Overall, there's 14 former FCS players on active rosters. Really Seattle, I mean, you look at Cooper Kupp, you look at Ty Okada, we talked about Sundell and Zabel, and then even Rashid Shaheed. Not only are these guys on the team, on the active rosters, but they're making huge impacts on these teams. Also, got to give a shout, another Eastern Washington wide receiver for the Patriots. My guy, Efton Chisholm III, who we saw play against the Bison at US Bank Stadium, is a guy for Drake May's team. Yeah, and he was a guy that was maybe a bit overlooked, coming out of the FCS, but you kind of felt like if he found himself in a good landing spot, he'd be able to stick on a roster. And also with the Patriots, he's injured right now, but Lan Larison, UC Davis running back, another guy where you felt like, okay, if he finds a good fit, he's going to make a huge impact just with kind of his diverse skill set, but he's been out for the season. But yeah, those are 2 other guys that I think found a really good home in New England. It'll be fun to watch here and chat about that over the next couple of weeks. All right, so now portal is officially closed. I think we can maybe start to assess who's we're at. I think there'll be some teams that'll add players, but for the most part, the teams that have their rosters are set. What do we make of, I guess let's start first. We know NDSU got hit. Other teams, obviously, Montana State lost a couple guys. Illinois State did. For the most part, Sam, who made out of this maybe the best of the contending teams out of the portal run? Yeah, I think South Dakota State and Montana State probably feel the best. South Dakota State really only lost 1 impact guy. That was their all-conference safety. But for the most part, the Jacks were able to retain pretty much all of their top guys. Montana State, I think the losses that they sustained were pretty expected. They lost a few young cornerbacks, and then they also lost starting offensive linemen as well. But really, you look at the Cats, and 3, maybe 4 impact guys, and that's, you compare it to previous years, they had 6, 7, or 8 guys that they lost to the transfer portal. So I think overall, Montana State feels pretty good of how the transfer portal impacted them. You're not going to be able to retain 100% of your guys, but for Montana State, the Dollar Twins were sought after. Lamson was sought after. They're starting left tackle, freshman All-American. He probably could have made a lot of money going elsewhere. He stuck around. Some 3 of their top linebackers, a couple of them were probably sought after, but they stuck around. So I think Montana State feels really good about how they were able to return most of their top guys.
I look in the Valley quarterback wise, 4 of the 7 playoff teams, and I'm going to count SIU as a quasi playoff team because they won 7 games. They beat Illinois State by 35 the final game of the season, are bringing their guys back. Jerry Kaminsky's going to be back for UND. Brungard, who won the Walter Payton, is back for Youngstown. Chase Mason's back for South Dakota State. DJ Williams is back for SIU. Obviously, North Dakota State, South Dakota, Illinois State are going to have new quarterbacks in 2026. What do you mean? I mean, the Valley already we know is going to be good. That's pretty good to start with 4 of the 7 starters going to be back at quarterback in 2026.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, so many of these guys decide to return when, it seems like offensive linemen and then cornerback as well are probably the most sought after when it comes to the FBS. Especially the Power 4 teams. But certainly, if you're a standout quarterback with eligibility remaining, your number, is certainly going to be called. And a lot of these guys probably could have made some good money going to the next level. But I also think there's something to be said about staying in an offensive system that you're comfortable with. And also, knowing you're going to be the starter, whereas you go to the FBS, there's a lot of success stories with FCS guys going to the FBS, but there are also a lot of guys that go from being the guy in the FCS, they transfer to the FBS, and they kind of bounce around from team to team because they can't find a starting job. And so you look at the Valley, they have a lot of their top quarterbacks coming back, and even the Big Sky. I think it's like 4 of the 5 all-conference players in the Big Sky. They're all coming back as well. The one guy that did leave for the FBS was UC Davis's quarterback. But Montana State, they probably have 2 of the best quarterbacks in the FCS, along with Bo Brungard from Youngstown State. So I think the quarterback play is going to be at a high level. You mentioned South Dakota. They did bring in a former starting quarterback from Dartmouth. I think he could potentially be looked at as the guy to take over the reins there. And then, Nathan Hayes at NDSU, I think a lot of people are familiar with his game and, realize that he has potential to be the next great Bison quarterback.
Illinois State brought in a USC transfer at quarterback as well. So, the teams that did have to bring in guys brought in some dudes here, apparently, they think they can help them in 2026.
Yeah, and there's been a good amount of FBS to FCS transfers at the quarterback position, guys that have had made big impacts. And you look at Illinois State and the Redbirds. They lost some key guys to the transfer portal. They also retained some key guys as well. The big question mark for them is going to be quarterback play. And so if the Power 4 transfer can come in and make an impact, or at least push for the starting job, I think that is going to be very valuable for the Redbirds.
Yeah, just intrigued to see how that's gonna play out this coming season with a lot of returners and some newness. It's setting up what's going to be really interesting. All right, so now here we are, full on off season. What are you keeping your eyes peeled to about either rule wise coming down or potential out there? What storylines are you attaching yourself to for this upcoming off season?
Yeah, the offseason is almost as hectic as the actual regular season, just with so many rule changes and, the red shirt rule. We'll see if the FCS, adopts that, getting into the weeds. But there used to be just the football oversight committee. And then I think last year or 2 years ago, they changed that to the FBS oversight committee and then the FCS oversight committee. And so usually when you see the FBS oversight committee, make some changes. The FCS oversight committee usually follows, those same changes, whether it's recruiting, calendar changes, stuff like that. But we'll see if that redshirt rule does get adopted, where you could play up to 9 games and still maintain your red shirt. The jersey patch will be interesting as well. We'll see, if FCS teams do put a jersey patch on. I know, some old school folks might not like that, but when you're a mid-major, you take as much additional revenue as you can.
Absolutely.
I know the Big Sky is kind of exploring, instead of each team doing their own individual jersey patch, of just having one jersey patch, one corporate sponsor for all the teams. If that could potentially make, the most money for everyone. So that's something to keep an eye on. Realignments, we'll see it. Maybe it'll be a quiet year, this year as far as realignment, but you never really know how that's going to unfold, both at the FBS level and the FCS level. Just kind of a lot of off the field stuff that's kind of, things to pay attention to. Plus the what's going to happen with the FCS playoffs. Those conversations are still ongoing. Is it going to go to kind of a private entity, or is the NCAA going to keep on running the FCS playoffs? That's kind of a big storyline. But there's a lot more questions than answers, and so whenever I ask around, like, hey, is there any movement? It's still a lot of conversations ongoing about this. So it's kind of hard to make most of what exactly is going to happen.
And I wasn't here Friday, but we found out the CFP is going to stay at 12, Sam. I think that will clarify some TV stuff as well, speaking of the TV guy that I am, especially for the FCS, because we were curious if it expands, what's that going to do? That I think likely now that the FCS playoff committee can maybe go to ESPN and say, hey, Monday's still open. Can we do this again now that they have resolution with the college football playoff?
Yeah, I think especially with the championship game, staying on a Monday night,
right.
I think this shows that that is probably likely going to happen. And even quarterfinal Saturday, I mean that's big for the quarterfinal games. It's big for the Celebration Bowl. It's big for Army Navy as well. Where had the CFP expanded to 16 teams, 24 teams, it probably would have pushed up onto that Saturday, and that would have taken away TV opportunities for both the Celebration Bowl and the quarterfinals. Now I think the CFP is going to expand at some points. It's just a matter of when. There's so much money in it. There was so much money in it that they're going to eventually expand, and that'll probably have a negative impact on the FCS just with more TV windows being taken up. But for at least the 2026 season, it seems like the FCS is quote unquote in the clear as far as having some really good TV windows again.
Yeah, and because the deal for Monday night, the championship game, was just for 2 years, as we discussed, I think, a couple weeks ago when you got back from Nashville. Now that they can potentially go back to ESPN and say, hey, if you're still open, we'd love to take that. And with the ratings that they've got each of the 2 years they've done it, they certainly have some ammunition to do that with going forward now.
Yeah, well, like 2.4 million last year, then this last season 2.3 million viewers. I mean, those are among
really good.
The best viewership for the FCS championship game. I think the peak was 2.68 million. That was NDSU, JMU. That was on ABC on a Saturday. I don't think that had a whole lot of competition, and so I don't know if we'll ever get to that number again. But yeah, having that Monday night window to yourself, where we talked about, there are so many national college football folks that were talking about that game and tweeting about it. It was great exposure for the FCS and for ESPN too, right? I mean, they want as many viewers as possible to, make more ad revenue. So I think that was a win-win for both sides.
People like football on Mondays. This is the first one we're not going to have a Monday night football game since, whether it's college or pro, since August. So people are getting used to it. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, totally off topic, if the NFL decided to do that with one of its championship games, have one on a Sunday and one on a Monday. Just why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL kind of runs the show.
They do.
A little bit, and college football is kind of working off of what they decide when they want to play.
Great to see you, bud. Thanks always for the time, and we'll talk next week, okay?
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Sam Herder joins us each and every Monday to get us started with everything going on FCS. Yeah, if you missed that on Friday, two things out of that. The CFP and all of its infinite wisdom, we had all this discussion of the Big 12, Big 10 and the SEC still can't come to an agreement on how many teams to do it. So it's going to stay at 12, which maybe isn't the worst thing ever. We've only done this for 2 years, and then we're ready to blow it up. Maybe let's keep it for a little bit, then go to 16. I get it. The tournament is fun. The fact we had to wait as long to actually get to 12 is ludicrous. But now can we do this, figure it out, and then expand it? Maybe that's a radical idea. And yeah, we'll get into this maybe tomorrow. I know when Matt Larson was here on Thursday, we talked about the jersey patch rule that was signed off, or proposal, I guess, that was signed off by the NCAA D1 committee. So that's coming to a football stadium towards you in 2026. And I would imagine North Dakota State will firmly embrace that they can have at least a couple of sponsor patches on the jersey. Now, who ponies up? There's probably a couple you can think of that'll be first in line to do that. All right, let's break. We'll wrap up our first hour. Jeff Kolpack coming up in hour two on a Monday morning edition of Hot Mic. We return after this. Our thanks to Sam Herder for giving us some good stuff there. Let's get a couple emails in here before we wrap up the first hour. It's always good. Dom, it's not talked about enough, but it's time for the Vikings to move on from Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. With the decision to move on from Sam Darnold without knowing what JJ is and his draft history being abysmal, the Vikings are wasting the good years of Jefferson and KOC. There's going to be plenty of that chatter today, especially after how Darnold played yesterday. I'm not going to do any revisionist history. I sat here on this show about this time last year, said thanks to Sam, he had a great year. The ending was not good, but there was no way that they were going to be able to afford him and restructure the offensive line the way they needed to do. And how much money that the Seahawks paid Darnold, that was not feasible for the Vikings to do. Now, hindsight being what it is, that maybe they could have found a way to split it, that maybe can we give Darnold a shorter deal and still sign an offensive lineman, because Ryan Kelly gave you nothing this year. He was injured with 2 serious concussions. That's going to be discussed. To the other part of this email, totally agree. His draft history is terrible. We've gone through it. Jordan Addison has worked out. I think Dallas Turner is trending in that direction. The rest of his picks have been abysmal, to use the word. I would agree with that. It's not been good. And that's going to be relitigated here today, tomorrow, all the way till we get to February 8 on Sam. And the Jets are in the same boat. I got intimate involvement with both these teams because the Jets nearly ruined them. They gave him a head coach in Adam Gase that couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag. They had no weapons. And you look at the Jet offense in 2020, in 2019, they won 7 games, and I don't know who he was throwing the ball to. I mean, he nearly ruined him. Now, it's not all on KOC. Kyle Shanahan's got to get some credit for this as well, because remember, Darnold spent 2022 with the 49ers, got his act together there. By the time that the Vikings signed him in 2024, he was maybe not as broken as we thought. But, yeah, there's going to be plenty of that conversation going, maybe rightfully so. Did the Vikings screw up here on what they did? Heck, did the Jets screw up and let him go? I'm willing to have that discussion for the next, 40 years, especially when Darnold wins the Super Bowl in a couple weeks. Let's break. We come back. Our guy Jeff Kolpack is here in studio. Discuss what we saw from basketball this weekend. Chat a few other topics as well. When we start hour 2 on a Monday morning, that's coming up when we come back.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo. It's that time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2. I forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
All right, it is Monday. Jeff Kolpack joins us each and every Monday. His appearances are brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Good to see you, my man.
Still playing for the Cooper Cup.
Yeah, he's still going.
Yeah.
Had a touchdown last night. Little FCS. We had FCS aplenty. Rashid Shaheed's from Weber State. Cup from Eastern Washington. Obviously, the Bison Bros up front on the offensive line. That's a lot of FCS representation going to be in the big game here in a couple weeks.
Has some good players.
There's no doubt. And back in the day, they could stay in the FCS.
Yeah, that's right.
Most of the time they're getting harvested to go up to the top level. What'd you take away? I know you're not a huge NFL guy. What'd you make of the 2 games yesterday?
I never expected you to ask me an NFL question. You caught me off guard. Sam Darnold, of course, starts right there with the story. And, I heard your Vikings take, and that's probably accurate. They weren't going to sign him long-term with J.J. McBust, unfortunately.
Wow, you're going to do that already? McCarthy's a bust?
He's trending.
It's not good.
It's trending that way.
You know what, though? They're saying the same thing about Darnold, though, too, after a couple of years with the Jets.
Yeah. So he's the number 1 story to me. Your NDSU offensive lineman. What a great story!
Yeah, awesome deal.
I just I see Zabel's family on social media just having the time of their life, which they should.
Right next to the Sundells, by the way, as well. Karina and Bob have been out there all the time, and we got to know both of those families intimately well during Gray's 5 years and Jalen's 6. I remember Sundell, I did the story when Serena, his younger sister, was a freshman at Kansas State. He told me he was the worst athlete in the family. I mean, Bob's in the MIAA Hall of Fame. Karina was a great basketball player. It's just, it flows in that family.
We talk about athletes, and let's talk about Gray Zabel. And obviously, I saw him play baseball as a Legion player and a high school player. But I saw a clip of him last week where he was blocking some corner out of bounds into like the 5th row. It reminded me of the Montana State game when he got flagged for excessive blocking.
Dumbest penalty ever.
Yeah. I mean, you block to the whistle, and I'm sorry the corner happened to go 8 yards out of bounds, but that's not a penalty.
You were there on draft night with his family, and the reaction was overwhelming, but I think Seattle took to him as much as he took to Seattle. I mean, he has his own press conferences now. Offensive lineman. I mean, quarterback does, running back, wide receiver. Offensive lineman does now, which is crazy out there.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he had his own deal going on.
Media deal.
Yeah, he's getting more pub in Seattle than he did here. Maybe we were deficient in coverage.
I don't think. I think we did pretty darn good at our time. But I think his personality has come out in a way where it started to. I think as the senior season came about, certainly during the pre-draft process, I think you saw more of it. But it has come out full bloom once he arrived in Seattle.
And then on the way back from the draft, after we come back from Pier that next day, I think you and I were both on the Seattle ESPN radio, and they were just enthralled with why would he stay in college, and what's in it for, they were just blown away. That he would maybe shun some of the money that he did,
and there was significant
and stay
money
there. Yes, so I think it started right away in the draft with the media and the fans just taking and how can he's a nice guy. It's plain and simple. If you're a nice person, guess what?
Things sometimes work out. There's no doubt about that. On the Sundell side of things, I mean, we remember we did the story going into the weird spring season of 2021. Carson Schuning has moved on. He was done playing football. Was going to start the next phase of his life. Bison don't have a center. So Dan Larson goes, oh, I'm going to take the most athletic guy. Jalen Sundell had never played center before in his life. Never. Not high school, nothing. He ends up 20-some-odd games at center. Now he's a starting center in the National Football League.
Well, Dan Larson, give credit.
Yeah.
He saw something in him. Obviously, you must have to have a sort of a quick twitch, I think, as a center.
Bit, yep. He had too quick of a twitch yesterday because he got a false start and a penalty on the game yesterday. But yes, athleticism, though. I mean, there's another guy that we covered.
He's Mr. Football in his class.
We did that story. Remember on signing day when he signed, we're doing our signing day show as we've done for 10, 12 years, and we're talking to him, and he was the Mr. Football winner out of the state of Missouri.
You'll never see that.
Lineman.
You never see that.
The only other one, was Radens. Radens was a Mr. Football finalist. He was a finalist for Mr. Football. That it made you think, maybe these guys might be all right.
Maryville, Missouri isn't the top class.
Correct.
Or is when the Bison played down there in the playoff game of late 90s.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Marville.
Yeah.
I think the locals say Marville.
The Spoof Hounds is his nickname in high school. But he's gone on. Obviously, he was an All-American into being at left tackle his senior season in 2023. And he ended up getting hurt right before the Combine. He got hurt down at the East-West Shrine game. About this time 2 years ago, ends up getting cut by the Browns. And, boy, the Seahawks picked him up. And, boy, I mean, talk about, again, John Schneider, their GM, certainly knows what he's doing in finding these guys.
I think the Seattle GM's on a little different level than the Vikings
I would
GM
agree with that.
At this point.
Yep. I would certainly drafting-wise, considering who they've selected.
Well,
and
talent evaluation.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And they're seeing the fruits of that. We mentioned with Sam, before we move on, another guy that we saw play for Eastern Washington, not Cooper Kupp, who we got plenty of memory. Efton Chisholm III is there for the Patriots as well, who we saw at U.S. Bank Stadium a couple years back.
I look back at that game. He didn't strike me as somebody that you go, okay, this guy.
He was not like Kupp. Like when we saw Kupp play, boy, there's a reason why he's going to be an NFL pick.
And the guy that stole the show at that Eastern Washington game was Cole Payton.
Yes, correct.
On a couple runs.
Yep. And that begins in earnest this week. Peyton will be beginning practice at the Senior Bowl tomorrow. That's a play, Jeff, over the last, count it now, 4 or 5 years. You go back to Dylan Radens. You go back to Christian Watson, Cody Mauch, Zabel. They have earned their stripes there to become high NFL draft picks out of Mobile.
Yeah. Well, and as a quarterback, you'll certainly be in the spotlight.
Yes, no doubt.
And so good for him. I mean, he stayed around. Again, you talk about Zabel staying around. This guy stayed around. Didn't quite get the title that he wanted, obviously, this year, but had great stats, great year.
Yeah.
just until that last game.
I had a message come in. We had Matt Larson here on Thursday, and I thought this was really interesting that said that no good news for Bison football has happened since Polisic's extension. The Bison lost to Illinois State. They had, 8 starters leave in the portal. They lost their cornerbacks coach to go to Central Florida. Will Johnson departs.
Well, that would have happened whether they
Kramer retired.
That was in the works for a year.
You understand? And I said that to Matt, and he's like, "Well, yeah, we've actually had," and obviously he was going to say that we've had some good stuff happen with the guys that they've added. But I thought it was a really interesting point that I don't know. There's a litany of bad news, but certainly things that NDSU hasn't had to deal with before in an offseason.
Well, and the players that left, they haven't had this many leave in the portal, and this many impact players, I should say.
Yep.
But it was a matter of time before that was going to happen. At some point, you're going to lose 8 guys, and when you're good, it's almost like a. Good for the program to have guys that good.
Are desired. There's no doubt about it.
I guess you can look at it that way,
Let me ask you, if the Bison had won and made it all the way to Nashville, maybe not win the championship, but make it to Nashville,
do
how
they
many
retain?
Leave? How many leave?
I don't know.
I think
most.
Half.
More than that.
I think half leave. I think 4 were probably going to go, but they keep 4, if that makes sense.
Maybe the corners.
Probably. I think Bo Johnson was going to go regardless.
Yep.
I think a Nene, they probably would have had probably a good chance maybe to keep. Staling, maybe.
Trent Fraley, I think.
Fraley, maybe.
He was, I think.
Specialist?
When I
don't
gather, he was getting his word out, or maybe his dad was, quote-unquote, shopping him around for a while.
That was the other part that was hit at me, and I don't know if we've talked about that if the Bison had made it that far. I think winning, what fans have certainly figured out now, is the longer you play in the postseason, the longer you got a chance to keep your guys on the team. I think that was
but
evident.
South Dakota State was out right away, and they kept a lot of guys.
They did.
That necessarily isn't hold water for everybody.
I would point here. I'll say this, and I'm getting everybody fired up in the 610 there 610. That how many of those guys were actually desired in the portal? Unlike last year, where there were quite a bit, I don't know how many of these guys, outside of Mason and Christensen, who both said they were going to stay, I don't know how many of those guys.
Good point. We don't know.
Are desired. Lofton Ogroski, maybe he's hurt. I mean, that to me, I'd counteract with that. I'm not saying their players are bad. I'm just saying they didn't, not to the level of that was out there right now. I also, last thing on football, and we'll break, and I want to chat some hoops. Just looking right now, I know you like to chat about this on quarterback-wise, what's coming back in 2026. Kaminsky, Brungard, Mason, DJ Williams. That's pretty darn good.
That's really good.
In the Missouri Valley, be back in 2026.
The Valley, to me, that tells the Valley is just going to dominate again.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got that many quarterbacks, which obviously is the most important position, and then, Nathan Hayes, I mean, NDSU's got some proving to do here.
USD's got to find a guy. Illinois State brought in a transfer from Southern Cal, which is intriguing to me.
I don't care if it's Notre Dame. I mean, it doesn't mean they're good.
I don't know. We'll see if Brock can coach him up. I mean, he's got some dudes around him.
Indiana State had a transfer QB from USC.
Murray State ended up having a couple guys as well. One Murray State guy ended up going pretty high. I can't remember where. I got to look in the break. It was crazy. It ended up going to and Murray State had a pretty good player, which we didn't see. But
a lot of players gave up a lot of money in the Valley. Those quarterbacks
to stay. Yep.
Easily mid-6 figures. Easily.
Brungard, no doubt. Mason, no doubt. Williams, no. I'm not sure about Jerry. Jerry probably got a good sum, but not.
Well, DJ Williams, I mean, he can't. SIU cannot have that great of an NIL fund. There's just no way.
Maybe DJ thought or saw that maybe there wasn't a desire for him out there.
Maybe there wasn't
what he thought.
Which surprised me because I think he's really good.
Yeah, he is really good. He struggled up here, but so did a lot of quarterbacks up here. That's nothing new on that. So, a little football chatter here. All right, let's break. When we come back, chat about the red-hot Bison basketball teams. Here we are. We're nearly halfway through the Summit League schedule. Neither one has lost yet. We'll discuss that with Jeff Kolpack. We come back on a Monday morning. We're back after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. You're looking at the up-to-date Summit League men's basketball standings as we start a new week. North Dakota State is halfway through league play. For the first time in school history, they are 8-0 after they dusted Oral Roberts. They've got a game-and-a-half lead on St. Thomas, who knocked off USD on the road on Saturday. UND got a really nice sweep. They won at ORU, and Denver The Jackrabbits with a big week with a road game with Omaha and then a game with Oral Roberts. All right, we're halfway through this. If I were to tell you now, where were the Bison? What's the worst the Bison men can finish? Really?
2. Yep.
Now, mind you, they still have to go to those teams right behind them in the standings. They got to play all those games on the road.
Those teams have to play teams too.
All right.
So,
UND is going to be heard from. I got to give Sather a tip of the cap there. They started brutal and have turned things around now to get back to even on the season. That is a heck of a job by a guy who's coaching basically without a contract going forward. That's a really good job.
Bison have it flowing though. God, they just have it flowing. It just feels like they're in sync. Feels like they're a team that just to take a transfer portal team that they have and mesh it into one so soon.
Now, Damari didn't play on Saturday, and frankly, they didn't need him against Oral Roberts after he dinged up his ankle late in the game against Denver. And then Tay Smith comes in and hits 8 3-pointers for him in his space.
He's a gunner. Yeah, he's a gunner. And sometimes I think, on the other side, just because you have the green light doesn't necessarily mean you have the green light. I think he once in a while take some shots and go, maybe. He reminds me, and this is really dating me, so I apologize. Some of the veteran guys don't understand this. Paul Sjogren from Moorhead, back in, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s, something like that. He had the same sort of shot. No, the range was just, there was no range. I mean, anywhere. I think that was before the three-pointer, or for sure it was. And so his shot reminds me a lot of, and it's not such high arcing. Sometimes, the gunner mentality.
Sometimes a line drive.
Yep. That was Paul.
So the Bison have just the one game this week. They have the mini bye. They'll play in Vermillion against USD. And frankly, I got to give Eric Peterson some credit too, because they've won 3 games. They only have basically 6 guys, and they're 3-3 in the league, that's impressive.
But the Bison have depth. And
they have
developed
that.
depth.
Yep.
Scuttle's come on now that he looks like he's healthy. I just like his game. It fits. It flows within the team.
Yeah.
They have all these roles that just flow together. And that's not easy to do. You have your point guard, Stefanowicz. You have your inside guy, Strickland, who's really athletic and can mix things up. You have Trayson Anderson, who's really come on at 6'9". Looks like he's 7 foot in there. Can hit the 3.
And making outside shots,
You have Tay Smith come off the bench hitting the 3. Who am I missing here?
Damari.
Yeah. I mean,
it's been great. He's your leading scorer.
Yeah. So it's just a team with all these pieces that is flowing together.
By the way, they zoomed up this weekend in the net rankings. The Bison started the last week at 135. They're at 117 right now.
It's getting up there.
They're 3 behind St. Thomas, and people wonder, well, how in the world are they behind? To try and explain the net rankings will make Kolpack's ears bleed. I'm not going to do that. But just know this, that the Summit League has 2 teams in the top 118 in the country. I don't remember that ever happened on the men's side.
Keep in mind, 68 teams make the tournament. Now that doesn't mean it's exactly like that, but that's how.
Yeah.
When you're getting close to that bunch.
Yep, correct.
That's pretty good. And I just and also I should add, they play defense.
They do. They rebound the heck out of the ball. Travion Carson's the other guy you didn't mention. He's been
their best guy.
I think Carson honestly is in contention for Player of the Year honors.
Yep.
I would right now. I'd put him up there. Minnesali's going to get some votes from St. Thomas. I would definitely have to consider.
He
Travion
fills the
that.
stat sheet every time, and I'm just not talking about points and rebounds.
Yep.
There's the assists, there's the steals, there's the lack of turnovers. I just his stat sheet just fills up
every game. Every game it's filled with that. It's maybe 15 points, 7 rebounds,
a steal
4
or 2
assists,
yeah.
2 steals, a block.
Yeah.
Like it's just every game he has been a tremendous find out of the JUCO ranks. Coming up from Des Moines Area Community College and now becoming a Division I mid-major standout. Meanwhile, same old. Bison women win again. 16 consecutive wins. They decimated South Dakota. That game was not really close, frankly. The Bison led from wire to wire.
Once the second half really got going. And again, same thing. Here's a team that the parts just are flowing together. And it all starts with getting Schiller from UND because now with the point guard, true point guard, reliable point guard, tough point guard, all those things. Everybody else is in their right spots. Molly Lenz is not a point guard.
Correct.
She's a shooting guard.
Yes.
Marissa Frost she's a point guard for a little bit, but she's the slasher. She's now in a better role as a number 2 guard. And of course, Avery Kunin benefiting from all that, because you have to pay attention to other players and you just can't throw everybody down on the paint on her, which talking to the South Dakota coach after the game, she goes, you have to pick your pick your deal. What are you going to do? You gonna
And
double down on her?
And you got her to deal with as well. And Carrington Asp as well,
Yeah.
coming off the bench, who's over 6 feet tall. It is pick your poison is exactly right. Here, I want to talk something off the court. They had over 2,000 people at that game Saturday. And there was a little promotional deal, which is fine. But that was... I looked at Amy Ruling like, this is a really good crowd. I was wondering because how cold it was Saturday, what they were going to get. That was impressive. Now, can they do that this week? Because it's Denver and Oral Roberts
Hey,
coming
they got
here.
the jersey giveaway.
They do have
Come
that,
on.
but I'm telling you, I mean, what else can they do, Kolpack? They've won 16 in a row. We covered them when they lost 16 in a row. The fact that this team is this good on the women's side, I'm shaking my head on it right now.
Oh, how many years was it when I wouldn't even cover a game on Saturday because they were 2-9
Yeah,
or
it was irrelevant.
or 3-15
It
or
was
whatever.
Totally, they would win 7 games.
Nobody
for
cared.
a
Nobody
season.
read it.
Well, you did the story on Kunin. The last time the Bison averaged a double-double was Plucker, and they were 7-22 that year.
Correct.
So I mean, there have been years when we've gotten to the end of January and it's over.
And she's on pace to do what Darcy Steer did in 93, 94.
That's an amazing year.
And Darcy was a senior. That was a year where they won the national title the previous year. And they came back and they had a young team. Darcy was the only veteran player, I believe, maybe another player or two. But they had a freshman named Casey Morlock.
Yeah.
They had a sophomore, Lynette Munn, your broadcasting cohort in state tournaments. Who else? I mean, they had other players too. Rhonda Birch was a freshman. Jenny Redemacher, I think, was a sophomore.
They were all right.
Yeah, they were all right. 31-2.
That's pretty good. Another player that's all right. You mentioned Marissa Frost. What she did Saturday was really 14 points. She had a couple blocks as well on
plays defense
on Molly Joyce.
Again, there's another team that plays defense.
USD's best player who was averaging 20 a game. And this is what you're talking about, Kolpack, her ability to slash to get to the bat. Everyone knows what she's going to do. She's going to go with her left hand, and nobody can stop it.
But she does have the right hand, too. She can go both ways when she comes in there running downhill to the hoop. And how did she get that off? How many times have you said that?
I said a couple times. Yeah. Exactly right. I have no idea. She was really good on Saturday.
Here they're singling. There's no way they were stopping her on a single.
No.
You have to double her. I mean,
this was the killer
especially
play.
South Dakota's a smaller team. I mean, Kunin could have had 50 points if they just would have continued to throw it down on the block.
There's no doubt. As you wake up this morning, North Dakota State is 43 in the net ranking. 43 with South Dakota State one spot behind them at 44.
Never saw that.
I mean, never would have dreamed that on the women's side. And then the fact is, right now, as you sit here, they have consideration for an at-large bid. If it comes to it, where let's say they cannot lose to anybody below 2 in the standings right here. That's just how the net rankings work, folks. So if they somehow trip up against Oral Roberts or they got to go to Kansas City yet, that will kill their at-large chances. But if they are able to run the table and they lose Jeff to South Dakota State, and maybe they face them again in the Summit League tournament and lose in what's a road game in Sioux Falls, the Bison will get a strong consideration for an at-large bid.
Do they still have to go to South Dakota?
They do have to go to USD. Yep. So that'll be tricky. They have to still play UND, which it's going to be their Super Bowl up in Grand Forks. They have to go to Omaha. Omaha's horrible. They wrap up with Denver. St. Thomas comes here. They have to go to Kansas City. ORU comes here. And I mentioned they get the Jackrabbit game suddenly here at the end of February. Mark it down. That's going to be by the way, on ABC. That's
Drive
on WDAY.
for 5. Drive for 5.
Let's go. I did not expect that. But on February the 26th, that Thursday, when the Jackrabbits are in town, because that was the game I thought the Bison had a good chance to win. Not the game in Brookings. They already snatched that one, which I didn't expect to happen.
But they have South Dakota State's attention, too, now.
Exactly right. And the Jacks have responded. They won by 50 against UND, and they won by 15 against
Don't forget
Kansas
about
City.
us game, yeah.
I'm telling you, that game will be – how long does this streak go? They're at 16 now. They play Denver and Oral Roberts coming up. They're not going to lose those two games, not at home, right? That's 17 and 18.
Shouldn't.
After that, they got to go – let's see. I think they go back on the road – let me look quick here. They have 2 more roadies after that. I got to look at my calendar here. They could get this to 20. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, who would have thought that? Next week, they go to Kansas City and Omaha. I don't think they're losing those 2 games. That would be 19 and 20.
Not to throw cold water on this conversation, but after the season, the old NIL pocketbook.
But it's not cold water. It's reality. And I think I had 2 fans come up to me when I was getting ready to leave Saturday. It's like, boy, I'm enjoying this now because I'm not sure how long she's going to be here. And like it's the reality of what we're dealing with in Division I era, talking about Avery Coonan specifically. Now, Avery's had chances to leave, I would say, each of the last 2 years. I think what she did at the Summer League tournament 2 years ago when the Bison lost in the final, people paid attention. Certainly, she was a first-team player last year. Those are like to the vultures out there.
What kind of
get her.
NIL dollars are available in the women's game?
I know it. Well, certainly at the high major level, it's pretty darn good. Like South Carolina,
like
LSU.
Evans got like $60,000 or something.
Yep.
Which isn't. I mean,
that's nothing to sneeze at.
But it's not 800,000.
No, it's not comparable to what's going on the men's side of things. Like Jakari White got over $1 million. You know, it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's apples and grapefruits now. Right now, it's not comparable. But if Minnesota, her hometown school, were to call it home state school, were to come, I mean, that's gonna be hard to say no to that. I wouldn't blame her either. But here's the thing, and there's the little inside thinking on this now. I think if you can keep a play, it's like the Staling mindset. If you can get 3, even 4, like a graduate, more power to you. Yeah. She's giving you 3. Awesome. We'll take it. You know what I mean? It sounds ludicrous to say, but in this day and age, that's all you can
I'm
ask
pretty
for.
sure Jory wanted 3 out of L, but he got 2, and he would have been happy with 3. But that's the way it is.
Yep. And
she could have still been on this team, by the way.
Correct. Think about that. Right? I mean, holy cow. I'll say this. Collins has done an amazing recruiting job. Him and along what they've done on their staff to find. I mean, Coonan was not well known on Montevideo.
But it's good recruiting because he saw that she was a state triple jump champ.
Yep.
And I was talking to her last week when I did the story on her. She just went out for fun. I don't think she even worked at it.
To do triple jump?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think she even worked at it. It was just like boom, boom, state title. Now those are athletes that you look for.
Yep.
At this level.
Dylan Geiser's another one.
Job.
I mean, you look at you could also have Claire Stern on this team. And Claire Stern is another 6-footer. I mean, you think about that. If they had Evans and Stern on this club, now we're talking a whole different level of what this team could be right now. That's, again, a credit to what they've done. Going back, I would just say, 7 years ago, I did a commentary on the news, and we'll wrap it up. When I blasted the women's program. They blocked me on Twitter. Do you remember that? The official women's basketball account blocked me.
That was...
it was Maren Walseth was head coach.
Yeah.
That they blocked me from following their stuff.
She wouldn't let me come into practice.
Because I was going... Right, because we said what was going on with the team.
And she goes, no reporters at practice. I'm going, great. I don't want to watch you play anyway.
Just from where that was, and that's not that long ago.
Fine.
Right?
Yeah, I won't go.
2018. To where they're at now,
think about that.
That's right. A long way coming.
Banned from practice.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where they were. And now it's a whole different deal. Now they're getting people back in the stands.
Yes, Maren, I'm going to take your out-of-bounds play, and I'm going to send it to South Dakota State. Not that it would matter because you're down 31 anyway.
It's not going to matter there. It's just a long way there. All right, my man. Thanks for coming by.
Good to see you.
We'll see you next week. Jeff
Cooper
Kolpack.
Cup, the Cooper Cup.
Is coming back. We'll be back in the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. Thanks to Jeff Kolpack. His appearances each and every Monday are brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We'll break. Much more on Hot Mike here. Final half hour coming up. We come back. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike rolls on here on a Overreaction Monday. Our thanks to Jeff Kolpack for giving us a few minutes there. We got a bunch of emails to get to here. We will in a second off the couple topics we were talking about there previous, getting ready for what's going to be a crazy week for those of us that follow the draft process. It really gets cranked up this week because we've got 2 All-Star games. The East-West Shrine game is coming up on Thursday. That game again in Frisco. Again, for people that were missed it, I mentioned it either last week or the week prior because they know Bryce Lance got an invitation to this game. He has decided to decline it to work on training to get ready for the Combine, which is coming up. That's the next part of this pre-draft process, which is about a little over a month from now in Indianapolis, something that we'll be keeping our eyes on that. But the big one is obviously the Senior Bowl. And that gets going in earnest actually today. Players arriving at various times. I was visiting with Cole Payton about this actually on Friday because we were hoping to connect before he got to Mobile so we could have him on the show. And then with the weather forecast as it was, they actually moved up his departure to get into Mobile so he wouldn't miss anything. So he got there on Saturday. And then the week of practices will begin tomorrow. Today it's getting in, meeting with different scouts, different coaches, and then it's on to the actual week of practices. Now, for those that are entrenched viewers of our show, they will full well know that the game itself matters none. It's the next 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in terms of practices. I'm reading ESPN article that came out this morning labeled 2026 Senior Bowl, top NFL draft prospects, quarterbacks, and predictions. And this is from a variety of scouts that cover college football and the draft process here. And they're naming some potential day 3 sleepers and chatting on quarterbacks and all that. Peyton's name is certainly out there. And I think for depending on what you're looking at, I mean, Garrett Nussmeier is another one that's going to be in the game. Nussmeier will be the most impressive passer this week because of his anticipation and accuracy will shine in this setting. Now, Peyton obviously is coming back after the broken thumb. From what Cole told me, that he is as good to go as he's going to be to participate in this. And there's a few other storylines to watch, but this is a time where in the past, Bison have come to this and completely blown up. Cody Mauch is a great example of that. If you go back to the Senior Bowl of, 2023, and we had the highlights on, it seemed like every day. It was crazy. Here's from Dane Brugler, who we've had on the show, who covers the draft and is great in that. NFL Draft All-Star Games are most beneficial for the non-FBS prospects who can help answer quote-unquote small school concerns against top-level talent. Division III guard Ali Marpet turned himself into a second-round pick on his performance in Mobile. Last season, North Dakota State's Gray Zabel was flirting with a top 50 ahead of the Senior Bowl, then cemented himself in the first round by playing at a high level all week during practice. There's another North Dakota State prospect heading to Mobile this week. Cole Payton, who waited his turn at quarterback and put himself on the NFL radar with his play in 2025. He's a good-sized lefty passer who can spray the ball at times, but also sling it all over the place. It's no mystery why I wrote down, quote, Michael Penix in my notes while watching his tape. That's not me. I'm no draft guru. I just like to watch it, report on it. This is the guy who covers it. Michael Penix was the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft a couple years ago. He's got a couple other FCS guys he's keeping an eye on as well. From what Brugler has said, that everything right now is trending as Cole could be potentially ceiling is a late day 2 pick, which is end of the 3rd round. And again, I would submit to you, when we were getting ready for last season and the questions were, can Cole Payton throw the ball? We did not have in our any sort of deal that he'd be a high NFL draft pick as a quarterback. And we discussed this when Randy Hedberg was here in studio last week for our Bison Media Zone show, that was not on our radar of things that could potentially happen. So that's on for the next couple days. And he's going to go there with a bunch, as I mentioned, other really good quarterbacks. Nussmeier being one. Let me just, I think they have the rosters figured out now of who's playing on what team here. This is let's, did I get this right here? No, I got everybody. I'm trying to figure out. Sorry, folks. Here's national team. There we go. All right. Quarterback-wise, Baylor's on the national team. Sawyer Robinson is there from Baylor. He's one of the quarterbacks. What else we got? Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, who was the Heisman runner-up, and Cole Payton. They are on the national team, for those wondering. And practices are going to be in the afternoon here over the next little bit. Meanwhile, on the American roster, the 3 quarterbacks there will be Taylon Green from Arkansas, Luke Altmaier from Illinois, and Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. Those are the quarterbacks that are going to be at the game, with the practices getting going tomorrow. NFL Network carries all of those, and this is the first time as well. I'm not trying to be a Senior Bowl fan line here, but just for those that are going to check it out. Traditionally, they've had one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Actually, each are in the afternoon now. I'm not sure if that's a television deal. Weather's always been kind of wonky. You remember when Christian Watson went there, and I think we had his dad on when he was talking with Mike Tomlin, then the head coach of the Steelers, which was just a wild deal. I have to go back in the archive and watch that. That was a fun show. But they were moved inside. They were in South Alabama's practice facility because the weather outside was so terrible they couldn't go outside. And there's another guy. You know, we talk plenty on the offensive lineman. Watson arrived in Mobile as, I think, probably in the same spot that Peyton probably is around now. And Christian got his way almost into the first round. He was fantastic that week, was practice player of the week. Radens got there, improved his stock. He got into the second round. Billy Turner. I mean, we go down the list of guys that have participated in Mobile and had really, and it's not just Mobile. I mean, Kyle Emanuel had a great week at the Shrine Game. Cam Miller just did it last year. Our guy Cordell Volson went and ended up being a fourth-round pick. That's the kind of week you can have. So it all begins for Cole Payton starting tomorrow. Last thing before we break and wrap up the show, and we'll dive more into this, I believe, either tomorrow or on Wednesday on the show. If you missed it while the game was going on, had a little Bison football breaking news last night. And if you thought it's early to start talking about the 2027 class, you may be right. But for the first time in its Division I history, the Bison have got a commit for the upcoming recruiting class 11 months before signing day. Austin Whittick out of New Richmond, Wisconsin, announced his commitment yesterday. Running back, 6 foot, first-team All-State selection out of the second biggest class in Wisconsin high school football. He is a burner. Had another offer from UND besides North Dakota State. The intriguing part about this, and I wrote about it, is he's got a Bison connection already. That one of his assistant coaches is former Bison All-Conference lineman Jeremy Kelly, who transferred to NDSU from Minnesota Crookston. Think about that way back when. Jeremy's a Wisconsin guy as well from Somerset that played for Tim Polasek when Polasek was the offensive coordinator at NDSU. So they've got a connection here, and talked a little bit with Austin yesterday. Said he didn't want to hesitate anymore and was ready to go. This beats the earliest commitment by about 2 full months. Jackson Dutenheffer, he committed NDSU the first of the 2021 class. It was right in the COVID had just been gotten going here. I want to say it was March of 2020 that Dutenheffer announced that he was going to be the first to commit. Kai Schlichting last year out of Cheyenne committed in late March. That's been the new threshold. Now we got it in January. I mean, I know this happens at the big boy level all the time that, you know, you look at Minnesota, I'm sure they got at least, I think, 10 or 11 guys that have committed for 2027. This is different for the FCS level. Why wouldn't it have the Bison be out in front on that? But Whittick is the first. You'll hear from him on Hot Mic coming up later this week. So the first in the boat for the class of 2027. As we mentioned earlier, NDSU's been busy. UND's been busy. The Jackrabbits have been as well, with offering a bunch of local guys that are in our immediate viewing area that we'll be certainly keeping our eyes on here over the next few months. I'm telling you right now, when we get to late spring, or late winter, early spring, so late March, early April, when those guys in Moorhead, Kindred decide to announce, it's going to be monster news. That's going to be a lot of fun. Let's do a couple emails here before we break and wrap things up for the week. This is going back to our Bison women's basketball conversation. Don, Marissa Frost has a unique drive-in shot because she does not gather herself and jump up. She cuts down on release time by not getting ready to jump. Players get ready to jump with her, but she does not jump. It's pretty great. Just a thought. Yeah, I never thought about that, but watching the replay, that's accurate. Dom, it's okay. You can say it. Marissa Frost is to NDSU this year what Paige Meyer was to SDSU the last few years. This is from someone who watches SDSU more than NDSU. Now that is a bold statement. I'm not ready to go that far. Paige Meyer, I thought, was the best player in the league the last couple of years. I know Brooklyn Meyer got the award, and Grace Larkins got the award last year. That's the biggest difference to the Jacks this year. Paige was awesome. She could take over the game like that. Like go from like the game in Brookings last year when the Bison were up 2 and then Paige does 3 plays and SDSU's up 8. They don't have that this year. That's why Paige is playing professionally. Is Marissa on that? She's good. She's not Paige Meyer-esque yet. She's good. She can get to the basket, but that's lofty praise to compare her to one of SDSU's all-time best in program history there. All right, we'll take our final break. We come back, we'll wrap things up, get you ready for a pretty good Sports Monday. We'll do that on the opposite side of the break. Hot Mike wraps up Overreaction Monday right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on a Monday. Tomorrow, David Richmond will join us, North Dakota State men's basketball head coach. Bison are perfect 8-0, getting ready for a mini bye this week. They have a 1 game at South Dakota that's coming up on the show tomorrow. I didn't get this into best of the weekend, and I should have, and we're going to do it here before the end of the show. Yesterday, the Bison wrestling team opened up its Big 12 last homestand. They have 3 consecutive matches here to wrap up with Northern Colorado and then Air Force coming up next weekend. Yesterday, they were wrestling against Cal Baptist. For those that don't know, right after the first of the year, Cal Baptist announced that they are shuttering its wrestling program. When the year is done, their wrestling program will discontinue, along with 2 other programs, along with diving and men's golf, I believe. Right after the match, our great crew caught this on the mat with the Bison wearing shirts saying, "Keep CBU Wrestling," which I thought was fantastic. There's only so many wrestling programs out there to begin with. The fact that the Bison would do this, they were wearing them, was the Lancers were before the match. I thought that was really neat stuff. So congrats to them. We'll see. I mean, what a terrible position for those guys to be in. The fact that they just don't know if they're going to have a program or not going forward, and the fact that they would go and do that, I thought was really neat stuff. So good stuff there, and congrats to Obi Blanc's team who got the win yesterday, their first conference win of the season. They're moving. The CBU's going into the West Coast Conference. That does not sponsor wrestling. That's why they're in the Big 12. Obviously, they think financially they can move forward and save some money without having a couple programs. Traditionally, they haven't been that great. But that's a tough deal to be on the other side of that when you're – I mean, they got a bunch of underclassmen that are wrestling for them as well, and find out, okay, suddenly the rug's pulled out from underneath me and we got no program anymore. And that's happening – maybe we don't talk about it enough, the amount of schools that are shuttering teams, whether it be baseball, whether it be track. I mean, we talked about it plenty during COVID. I mean, there was like 30 teams we were talking about during that stretch that were losing – funding for specific programs. It would be gymnastics or hockey, baseball, golf, swimming, track. I remember Washington State, I think they got rid of their indoor track but still did outdoor. It was just a wild time, and it's still happening. Maybe not as readily as it was a few years ago, but it's still going on. So shout out to what the Bison wrestling team did yesterday. All right, let's do some What to Watch before we get out of here. What to Watch brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. Busy sports week we got on tap. Starts tonight with the Timberwolves back in action trying to snap their 5-game skid. It's the back half of back-to-back games at home with Golden State. That is a Peacock exclusive game tonight, 8:30 tonight between Steph Curry and the Warriors against the Wolves. A couple of really good college basketball games tonight. Louisville and Duke gets it started, 6 o'clock on ESPN. We've turned the corner, folks. Football's done. Now college basketball can actually get a little bit of time. It's January 26th. We're officially 6 weeks out from Selection Sunday. So that gets going at 6 o'clock on ESPN. And the second game, Arizona and BYU, number 1 and number 13 in the country. Arizona is good. They played the Jackrabbits earlier this season. That's at 8 o'clock on ESPN. We got to roll. Thanks to our guest today, to Sam Herder and to Jeff Kolpack and everybody that's submitted for Best of the Weekend. We tried our best to hopefully distract you a little bit here on this Monday. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Thanks so much for spending part of your Monday with us. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.